Tool for Toys, with a review of the Gundam The Origin RX-78-02 Action figure. Size comparisons with a tin of pop. What else do we have? A high grade, 1 in 1/44 scale. He's a bit smaller, I think, less chunky. Height-wise, he's almost the same, but here's one I haven't reviewed yet. Robot Damashi RX cat hair. Robot Damashi, a bit more in scale, but a bit bigger, so he's a bit intermediary. Out of the package, I don't have his box. So, yep, he's not a model kit, he is an action figure. And the sculpt is for the Gundam Origin, the manga series, and that's around, let me check. Back in a mo. Yep, 2002 for 3,000 yen or thereabouts. You don't see this guy around very often, so when you do, snap him up. Now, he came as part of a series of just 3 figures. There's this guy, there's a green Zaku, and Shaz. I have the green Zaku, of course. Let's go through the bad first. And look what's going on with your arm there. Hideous. The jointage, it has this like extending function to allow you to... That's a good amount of bend, I'll give you that, but it doesn't hold the pose very well. So you can see how it's kind of hollow. It's almost as if they had a fixed pose sculpt and they cut it up into pieces and stuck in a third-party jointage system to it, and it just doesn't go very well. But you know, articulation wise, yeah, 2 joints at the ankle. It swivels nicely there. The ankle armor is separated. 2 points at the knee. Ball joint at the hip. It's got separated trouser articulation. 2-part waist as well, which is nice. You know, can you see that shifting around? The door opens, but there's nothing to see underneath. His neck consists of this ball joint, which can be raised and also pivot forwards and backwards, and it gives him this rather unusual giraffe-like neck. And the arms, round and round, big swivel to the front there, swivel at the top of the shoulder, 2-point elbow, and ball jointed hands. His left and right sleeves are very different as well. The right one is quite plain, but the left arm is a bit more substantial. It has a raised section here with a vent, and there's another rectangular section also raised with the hole in it for you to peg in that shield. So onto his accessories. His beam rifle here is very different from what you get with the traditional RX-78-02. The magazine is removable, and the handle flips out from the side here, and like I say, you're able to like shift the shoulders forward and be able to grab with 2 hands. You can do that pose. There's a swivel with a scope. Molded in grey plastic, painted on yellow scope, and has a red scope at the top as well. So that's his rifle. He comes with a bazooka, hyper bazooka. Fairly standard fare there. A bit longer piece for the scope there than you'd expect in the traditional RX-78-02. And a pair of pink beams. Mine have curled a bit. A pair of open fists to perfectly hold his beam sabers. There you go. One thing you should note is the paint here is very economically applied. You move the ball joints of his thrusters a bit down and you can see the exposed area where there isn't any paint. Maybe the tolerances of this mold are very small, and if they painted the entire ball, it wouldn't fit into the backpack. I don't know. It comes with a shield. Not much panel lining going on the front. A detail as per a high grade one, and there is a post on a ball joint that fits on his forearm. He holds his shield upside down to the traditional manner in the Gundam Origin series, and when he needs to defend himself, he'll raise up his forearm to block any shots coming at him. Takes a little bit of getting used to that. He's all plastic, I suppose like vinyl material. Quite robust, sturdy enough for an action figure. So this is the sculpt according to the manga Gundam The Origin, indicative by these little details on the top of the chest, the panel lining, the shape of the vents. There's a notch in the yellow collar there as well. The colouring is very subdued or drab, more realistic, I think, rather than the, super cartoony, bright primary colours of the usual RX. Even the reds are a very earthy colour. It's an airbrushed paint job. There's lots of shading details, darker and lighter grey on the chest, this olive green. Can you catch the shading that's been done here, and the panel lining in grey? Even on the V-fin, there's a slightly purpley tinge to give it some depth. The eyes have a bright yellow gloss to them, which is different from the slightly orangier yellows that we have on the rest of him. I noticed that in certain images you have pink eyes, and the V-fin turns yellow at some point. He evolves continuously through the series, apparently. And then you get different things like chrome covers for all the joints. There's a huge shoulder cannon that he gets later on. But this is the very earliest incarnation of the RX-78 that we see in the manga series. It's translated in English, well, for the first few episodes anyway, or first few chapters. If you can search it out, it's done by Viz Comics. The backpack is removable. 2002, made in China. As for my conclusions, it's only the jointage that I don't like about this guy. They look awkward. What is going on with you? Floppy, floppy, floppy. It ruins an otherwise perfectly good figure. It looks very different. It stands out from the crowd. I mean, it's not just the colouring or the airbrushed paint job that it's got. The sculpt, how it's thinner than most, it's less chunky than most RX-78-2s, and the added details which make it unique to the Origin series of the manga, the hardware changes that they've done to it. It's a good figure, but marred by exceptionally bad, frankly rubbish joints that he has, which is a real shame, I like him otherwise. Now, if you want an all-plastic action figure of the Gundam The Origin version, this is going to be the only choice that you have right now, ignoring the joints. If you want him, scour eBay.